You're still.
Good morning. This is Ladena Bough from Stockton, Missouri, and this is Trials and Triumphs. And today we have a guest, Sean, and it's Sean
Holden.
Holden,
Yep.
Sean Robert Holden.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, hey.
I got three names on Facebook. I've seen all your other two that were, got rid of
Oh,
apparently.
I tried. Yeah. It's like the past. Sometimes it's hard to get rid of.
Yeah, they all keep showing up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing gets lost in digital land.
No.
No,
No.
you'd be around forever there.
Yeah.
Anyway, Sean is you have a youth ministry, I guess.
Yeah.
What church is that at?
Northside Assembly.
Northside
Yeah.
Assembly. Okay, you're with Dawn and all of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Pastor Blackard, Don, Nathan. Yep.
Yep. So yeah, Dawn Blackard is on the show, two shows ahead of us. She's on Changing Times with Lynn Morris.
Oh, cool.
And so they are here every week. And that's why we have cake today, because today was their 100th episode. So
That's good cake, too.
yeah, Jody and Jaden brought that.
Good job.
Jody's behind the camera over there. She's in charge of everything and tells us where to go and when to sit. So she's really good at bossing people around. It's all that Navy years she had going on.
Yeah, I understand that.
So anyway, we wanted to talk a little bit about your testimony. And your notes you sent me said you were first saved in 1996 on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah. How'd that come about?
Isn't that wild? Like, who gets saved on New Year's Eve night?
Yeah,
Me.
you can lose all kinds of drinks that way.
Well, it was a funny story. Like, I'm 22 at the time, and just lived kind of a rough life, so dealt with a lot of internal pain and just life and why this, why that. And me and my buddy were walking to his mom's house. He wanted to change clothes, and we knock on his door, and she was one of these really holy roller, just praying all the time and singing songs all the time, just really loved God. And I always thought it was super weird. But she lets us in the house, and when she opens the door, she looks at us and she goes, "You guys need Jesus." And I had this encounter with God at this moment. My buddy walks in to change clothes. I walk in, I sit right on a couch, and I'm just having this encounter with Christ, with Jesus, where I'm in my heart, in my spirit, however that works, I can see him and he's walking towards me. And in all this mess that I was living in, I realized in that moment that Jesus loves me.
Mm-hmm.
And it changed my heart. It broke my heart. I'm literally like 22 partying. Our other friend comes to pick us up, and I get in the car and I'm just crying. Like I'm just crying. And I didn't cry a whole lot, but my heart was broke, realizing that God loved me despite me and in this mess. And so it changed my life.
Yeah, I know the first time I encountered the Lord, I was crying like a baby.
Yeah.
And forever. It seemed like I was never going to stop crying.
Yeah.
And my parents and my kids, my friends are all looking at me like, "What is
What's
your
wrong?
problem?"
Yeah.
Going to put me in a psych ward because I was too depressed or something.
Yeah.
They never got away with it.
Good.
So anyway, after that, let's see, you grew up in foster homes and stuff? Is that correct?
Yeah. So at an early age, I was in a foster home. So it was like one of those deals, like my parents never married, and so when they split up, I remember the last time I'd seen my dad. I was like 4 years old last time I really seen my dad, and he had brought us to my mom's for Christmas. And so we have Christmas, and when he came back to get us, she locked the door and said, "Just be really quiet." And he knocked and knocked and knocked to pick us up, but we just never answered the door. And from that point, living with mom was kind of from this car to that tent to wherever, until the state put us into foster care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we had a minister here with Acts Ministry. He used to go into the homeless camps and find people living in cars and things like that, and he'd take them all home.
Yeah.
And Dennis loved everybody. He had the biggest heart in the world.
Yeah.
But he'd been one with drugs and jail and prison and everything else. So he had a heart for that, and he was very effective in his ministry. But then you got into juvenile hall.
Oh yeah. The whole foster care thing, it seems to end there, progress to that point. For me anyways, it did. So there was the 4 different foster homes, and then juvenile hall or group homes. Went into the group home thing, and then to a couple different group homes, and then juvenile halls, and so
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a hard road to walk
yeah,
whenever you don't have any place you can actually call home.
yeah. That's true.
You know, but I guess you found one foster family that you went back to ultimately, and
My third foster home is Dennis and June Cleveland, and we became their foster kids in California. And I believe we were their first foster kids. Since then, they've had 80 something of them,
mm,
which is incredible. But what I knew was that even going back to the living a messed up life and different things, I always knew that they had loved me
mhm,
and that they knew God. And I knew that as an adult in the messed up life I was in, I knew that they knew the answers.
mhm,
And so there was just something always drawing me back here to just to come get that love, get those answers. I knew they had the answers I needed for my life. So it was amazing. It
and they
was
welcomed
amazing.
you back.
They did.
Hmm.
After it was 27 years. 27 years. My kids, when they were little, I would raise them on the stories of living in Missouri with Dennis and June.
Hmm.
And I would make stuff up as you would any parent. But we moved from California to Humansville on this huge ranch, all this property. And Dennis is a man's man.
Hmm.
So there was vehicles and tractors and quads, and he always kind of had this rule, like if you can start it, you can drive it.
Yep.
So we'd drive around, spray some carb cleaner in a car and drive it a few feet. And it was like the ultimate place for a kid like me to grow up
Hmm.
with these parents. And June is just like the mother of mothers. I mean, to deal with that many foster kids, she's just got a heart of gold. So I was so blessed to be put into this foster home with these people that loved me and taught me the things of God as much as I could understand them at the time. And then when I got old enough to think I kind of knew it all, and we had parted ways, I always knew that there was something that I that was missing from my life that I could get somehow by being with them.
Hmm.
So, and after 27 years, yeah, and on the when I came back after those 27 years, I was a mess. I'd lost everything in the drug life, came back with nothing, and
Hmm.
they took me home, put me on the couch, and we started building again. So,
Yeah.
yeah, pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
It's really amazing when you can find somebody to do that. I took in 90 kids in my life over the years.
Seriously,
Yeah.
wow,
Um, I was living in Kansas City, and it seemed like up there, I got the feeling that people thought that children were throwaway items,
sure,
and they just kick them out with the clothes on their back and say, "Don't come back."
yeah,
And my kids never brought home dogs and cats; they brought home kids.
that's awesome. That's awesome.
They'd go and answer the phone, Rainbow House, Green speaking. And it's like, okay, but we managed to get by, and I had Bloods and Crips and Latin counts and everything
Sure,
all
sure.
under the same roof, and they never fought in my house.
Wow.
That was a major thing. We could all go out together and no arguments. When they got out on their own, they go back to fighting. But
Yeah.
while they were in my house, we never had a problem. But
Hmm.
they knew my rules, and they knew
Yeah.
that I would love them no matter what. And I'd put a rope over their head and clothes on their back and feed them every day. So
Yeah, which is important.
yeah, they liked eating. I figured that one out.
Yeah.
So anyway, you got married at one point, and you've got a couple of kids. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I got married in '97, and I've got 2 kids that are in their 20s
Mm-hmm.
from that marriage. Um, was it almost 3 years ago now? I remarried to Whitney here in Missouri. I've got 2 stepsons that are 7 and 9.
Well, cool.
Yeah, super cool.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Where are your kids from your first marriage? Are they in Missouri also?
No, no. So my daughter who just turned 20, she actually lives in Tennessee. And then my son is in the military. So
Mm-hmm.
he's in Alaska. And then I've got an older son from high school days who lives in Oregon.
They're spread out everywhere, aren't
Yeah,
they?
yeah. Yeah, it's so cool. So my son from Oregon, I didn't raise him, but he had written me a letter at an early age from school, like it was a project.
Mm-hmm.
And so we built this relationship, and there was times he'd moved in and moved back out and different things, but he has a son now. And so if I could tell the story, when Josh was 2, his mother brought him up to Redding, California to see me and just kind of see where I was at how I was, and I was a mess at the time, living
Mm-hmm.
like terrible. And so we go to Burger King, and I've got no money. I don't have any money to even buy my son lunch. So his mom buys a few burgers, and we eat. And the drug life I'm living, you don't even want to eat, but I'm sitting there and we eat anyway. And I try and I want to and wish I was a father to him at this time,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not. And she leaves, and she realizes I'm a drugged out mess. And so I don't see Josh for a lot of years. But something God did that's so amazing last year was Josh's son's mom got a hold of me on Facebook, and they were traveling the States. I said, wow, if you ever end up in Missouri, stop by or get a hold of me. And she goes, actually, we're going to go through Missouri. So Josh's son, Zayden and his mom, my grandson, are coming through town, and we go meet them at Bass Pro Shop. And it was amazing because I meet Zayden, my grandson, and we're hanging out, and we go to dinner, and I get dinner because God has provided that now to where I can buy dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And we take him to Bass Pro Shop, and I'm like, what do you want? Anything you want. He's looking at the quads. I'm like, not the quads, but any of the toys. And he picks out this cool truck and trailer and motorcycles, and I got that. I'm going to buy that for you. And the next morning we go out, and me and my wife buy. And I'm not saying it's like, hey, look what I did, but here's what God did with my son, where I was such a mess I couldn't buy a cheeseburger from Burger King. From that point, where God has worked in my life to where here's my grandson, and we are able to get him lunch, a toy, anything he wants.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lord had provided that, and it was so almost prophetic, like, look what God has done. Here it is 20 something years ago in this mess, and now here's almost the same exact deal, but a difference because of where God has me.
Right.
And we were able to be good grandparents, and bless him. So it was
Mm-hmm.
really amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, was your wife real excited about being a grandma at whatever age there? You know, you had young children at that
Yeah.
point.
So my wife's a little bit younger than me, and her kids are, my stepkids are younger. So it's odd, I think, for her to be a grandmother, but it is what God has provided. And it's so amazing. Like, now that my kids are older and grown up, and I made a lot of mistakes there, that now I have these two amazing stepsons, and this kind of new ability to be
Mm-hmm.
a good father. So it's really
Yeah.
cool.
Well, God teaches you how to do that. You
Yeah.
know, if you just pay attention and get into the
Yeah.
Bible, you get all kinds of instruction on
That's
raising
right.
kids there.
Yeah.
Most people ignore that these
Yeah.
days. You know, we need more Bible reading in this country. We
That's
need
true.
more people
Yeah.
wanting to raise their children in the love of God and stop all this hatred and discontent going
Absolutely.
on. You know, it's
We
just
were at
crazy.
a youth leaders meeting not too long ago, and one of the youth pastors said, my first youth group is at home.
Mm-hmm.
And so last Wednesday night at our youth group, maybe it was two, I got all the youth kids up there, and I said, well, I just want all you guys to know, and I don't know if you know this, but we have another youth group. Me and Whitney, we've got another youth group. And you talk about getting their attention. All of them were quiet and looking at us like, wait a minute, what? I said, yeah, we just never told you. But we got another youth group. And last, it's on Monday nights. And so I was just telling them about what we were sharing with our other youth group. And it was like this fun little kind of turn where they're like, oh, okay. And I'm like, yeah, our first youth group is at home
Mm-hmm.
with our kids. It's like we really try to decide, like we all want to disciple, we all want to minister, we all want to do these amazing things for God, but I think it has to start at home. And out of
Right.
that, it can lead into this and lead into this and lead into this. But I think God has given that to us as our first ministry. So
Right. You know, God gave you those children for a reason, and He
yeah,
wanted you to raise them up in His love and,
yeah, yeah,
you know, His instruction. And if more people would take that path in life,
it
you
changed
know,
the world.
it would. You
Yeah,
know, there's so much hate and discontent and
yeah,
hyphenated Christians and
sure, sure.
everything. I don't think we should have hyphenated Christians. Okay. If you're a Christian, you're a Christian.
Be a
Okay.
Christian.
Stop with the
Yeah,
hyphenation.
yeah,
You know, and stop trying to mix religions and stuff. You know, we can live in peace, but you know,
yeah,
your first love should be the Lord,
yeah,
and then in your home you should be loving the Lord and raising your children in fear and reverence of the Lord, and
yeah.
you know, just we all have a spot. that we need to take care of.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
And so anyway, you've got let's see, you work for one of the tow companies around town, is it?
Yeah, I work for my parents' affordable towing.
Affordable towing?
Yep.
Yeah, we've heard the name affordable around here quite a bit.
Mhm. It's affordable.
Yep. I've never had to use them. I live in Stockton,
Yeah.
and I was born in Humansville, so I
Were
know
you?
exactly.
Did you go to school there?
No, I didn't go to school there. My
Okay.
parents lived in Stockton because Stockton never had a hospital, so
Oh, got it.
yeah,
Got it.
Humansville was the closest hospital at that point.
Hmm.
So I was born in a parking lot there. My father shut my mother's coat in the door, and she refused to go anywhere without it. Yeah, it was okay. Dr. Richter said every man had to be there for the birth. Even back in the 50s, he said it took two to get here, and you're going to stand here and watch what she goes through.
Yeah.
So, anyway, when did you and Whitney marry?
We married, let's see, June 19th, 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a new marriage. Are you
Yeah.
still honeymooning in life
Oh,
there?
we will always honeymoon.
That's the only
Yeah.
way to be. Yeah.
We're stuck in honeymoon state. People will still tell us that. So we're going to stay there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, that's like Jody and Mark.
Yeah.
They run around with a big bouncy ball of Jesus. Just ask them.
Yeah. Yeah.
She was on my show, and that's what she said, that her life was kind of bad at that point, and but she was still happy. So
Yeah.
if you can learn to get through life and through all the bad things, even knowing that the Lord is there,
Right.
He will bring you through it.
Oh, yeah.
One way or another.
It's true.
So anyway, what are you doing with your life these days?
Well, so we've got the youth group. We Whitney and I both work different jobs, and then I'm part of a ministry called Bible Study Fellowship Men's Recovery and Trade School,
Mm-hmm.
which is a men's recovery home. So we
Okay.
started that probably about 3 years ago with an old house that we remodeled and wasn't sure what to do with, and started a men's home. And now there's 7 houses and 42, 43 guys.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's really growing
it's
fast, isn't
wild.
it?
Yeah,
Yeah. When did
yeah.
you start that?
About 3 years ago.
About
Yeah,
3 years ago?
yeah.
Yeah. So these guys that come out of jail, off the street, drug addicts, what are you
Yeah,
working with?
mainly drug addicts, drug addiction. There's a lot of alcohol. Then there's also just people that have nowhere else to go or
Mm-hmm.
nothing else going. It might not be a drug addiction. It might just be there's just nothing else in their life, and so they'll move in and kind of plug in. So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's a ministry. We graduated a guy named Chuck a few weeks ago, and this is a really cool story because Chuck's brother Steve went through the program, and he works for us, still has his own place now. He got married, but during Steve's time, Steve would always he'd be like, "Hey, my brother's getting out of prison in a few months, and I want to make sure he's got a spot." And we'd be like, "Okay, yeah, he's good, Steve," but he was just so adamant about making sure there was a spot for his brother because Steve had found something that worked. Steve had found something that changed his life,
Mm-hmm.
and he'd plugged in, and it was a tough battle for him. He had to submit to different things and learn, what God wants for his life. But he plugs into this thing. He puts his head down and he plugs into it, and his life changes. And now, more than anything, he wants to make sure that his brother gets that same opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's just so powerful, and that is the Christian life. Like the woman at the well, like she had found the answer. And are we okay with just now being good, or are we going to go out there and tell the people we love, or just anybody,
Right.
like about this Jesus that changed my life? So Steve was honest. Chuck gets out of the prison and comes into the program, and he just graduated a week or two ago. He's got a great job. He's doing great. He's reunited with his kids. Like
Awesome.
God is doing this thing
Yeah.
where he's talking to his children, and he's got just the softest heart, and it's amazing to see that. So we have a lot of those stories. We got men who have graduated, have started their own businesses, and with that, we also have a lot of guys who come in and don't do anything by the book and thrash the place and leave or whatever. You get both sides of it.
Right.
But if it's just for Chuck or if it's just for Steve, it's worth the whole deal.
Mm-hmm.
So we see a lot of success there, but it's a ministry. It's
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always good whenever those coming out of jail or homelessness or something, somebody will take the time to work with them and
Yeah.
teach them something. So you're teaching them a trade there, are you not?
That is one of the big goals. The main goal is to teach them about, hey, there's something different in life. Like there's this God who can change your life.
Right.
It's like the man at the pool of Bethesda. It's one of my favorite stories. But I think the Bible says for 27 or 37 years he has this ailment. And I see this guy like at this place where there's this pool and he's got all these plans. Like if I can just army crawl to this water while this angel touches it and all these things, if I could just do it, put all these things together and get to this point, I can be better. And that was me, and that's the men in these programs. We all have these plans, like these steps. If we can just do this, this, and this, we'll be okay. Problem is we cannot do that.
Mm-hmm.
Or would have been done already. The man at the pool would have already been, if he could have done it, he could have done it and would have. But when Jesus shows up, all that man's plans didn't matter.
Right.
All that mattered was that there's a Son of God, Jesus, and he can heal and change your life. And so one of our hearts is just to bring these guys into this knowledge, this atmosphere of everything you've tried didn't work, but here's this other way. And
Mm-hmm.
it works because I could tell you all about it. And Chuck can, and Steve can, and my dad can, how we were at that place where none of our plans, none of our efforts will get us to this place. But a moment with Jesus changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a big part of it. Second part of it is, yes, the trade of like a lot of these guys. We've got a guy that just got out of prison, was in prison 30 years. So what does he know?
Right.
Not a whole lot. So we try to offer work situations, whether it's on vehicles or towing or construction or dispatching or car lot. We've got all these different avenues where we can place guys to kind of learn something that can give them the footing they need to work in society, to be part of society in a healthy way.
Yeah. My stepson, he was in prison for quite a while, and he had a really bad drug addiction. And he finally found a program that he went through, and he got a job, and he absolutely loves it. It was one of the few places that would hire a felon,
Right.
So, and for the first time in 20 some odd years, he's on the right track.
That's
And
awesome.
I thought he was going to lose it when his father committed suicide, because that was one thing he said would always put him back in the drugs and so forth. He was a heroin addict. And he found the Lord, and that strength has allowed him to keep it together even now. He didn't fall apart when that happened. He got married, and he's living a really nice life and making really good money, and and that was all with God. And he's started doing Bible studies in his neighborhood, inviting all the neighbors over to do Bible studies and stuff. So the Lord will make a difference if you would allow him to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm really glad whenever I hear about different programs, so I know where to send people.
Yeah. And we have this kind of thing where that's why we've gone from 1 to 7 houses in such a short time, is there's such a need. And you, like, originally I didn't realize that. Like, originally I'm thinking, hey, this will be cool, 6 to 8 guys and we can work with them and stuff. But as soon as that started going and people started finding out and people show up, or people are calling from jails and prisons, or POs are calling now and saying, hey, do you guys have a spot? And so it's just the need is great. And so we just keep pushing forward. But yeah.
Well, I should put you in touch with one of the ministries that we have here at Acts too, because they've taken guys out of prison and so forth. But the guy who was running it, he died, unfortunately. And so his wife is trying to keep it going right now. And it's hard for a woman to take in guys.
Yeah, that would be tough.
We have another ministry that works with women, and she's just opened her second house. So,
awesome.
And in the city of Potosi, and 4 churches are the ones that wanted her to come and open a house there. So the city is helping pay the bills and everything, and so she's spreading out.
I love that, because there's like this need there. And I think for so long we've been used to depending on government to fix these social needs, when really Jesus is the answer to all these needs.
Yeah, the government can't do it.
They cannot do it.
Yeah.
But if they will partner with us, or we'll partner with them, instead of us having this kind of division, if there can be a connection made, because Jesus is the answer, and the church is where that's at, and they're willing to do these things. If there could be this communication, this partnership, we could start meeting some more needs, I think.
Yeah, that's what she had found, is that, the small towns around here, we've got lots of small towns in Missouri, that they don't have the facilities to help the people that are there,
Right.
and so she got lucky there, because 4 churches and the city council all came together and said they wanted a women's home.
That's
And
incredible.
so they gave her a home, and she's already got 7 ladies there. She opened the doors to 7 ladies.
Yeah.
She was full when she got there.
Yeah. That's what's funny is we'll remodel a house, and really before it's done, it's full. I mean, there's such a need. So
yeah, everybody needs to realize God's your answer. He will provide for you whenever you need to get something going on.
Yeah.
Don't depend on the government, because the government doesn't know what's going on out here.
No.
The senators are not walking up and down the streets and seeing everybody sitting on a street corner with
That's
a
true.
sign.
Yeah.
They're sitting in Washington debating what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And so how can you reach out to somebody when you're not there?
Right.
They are unaware of the problems, it seems like.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to get out there and see it. Yeah.
So anyway, I had a question I was going to ask you, and it just went right out.
It'll
of
come
my
back.
head.
It'll come back.
No, I'm fascinated with this. These homes you're building and the work you're doing there, and then you work with the youth at your church.
Yeah.
Is it really active youth group that you've got there?
They're active, all right. One of them calls me 2 nights ago at 10:30. I'm in bed. And so you got to take that phone call, because you don't know if it's something serious or important. And so I answer the phone, and he doesn't just call, but he does a video call. So here I'm in bed, laying on my pillow. I'm like, hey, what's up, buddy? And he goes, hey, do you have Netflix? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I said, no, I don't. I have PureFlix. You should watch PureFlix. And he laughs at PureFlix. And I go, what are you trying to do? Get a password so you can watch a movie? And he's like, yeah, I'm trying to watch this movie, this horror movie. And I can't get on my Netflix. And so my wife Whitney's like praying that he cannot get on his Netflix to watch this movie. So it was kind of funny, but I don't have Netflix. I didn't have a password for him. But I told Whitney yesterday, I said, that's cool that he called, even if it was for that. And it's cool that he knows that I'll answer, even if I'm in bed.
Right.
Because there has to be that relationship. Because I remember helping in a youth group in California 20 years ago, and just helping out, and you build relationships with some of the kids. But I literally woke up at my house one morning and walk outside, and one of the youth kids is asleep laying in the yard. So he'd went out and partied, got drunk, and didn't know where to go, but he knew a safe place.
Right.
My yard. So these kids, it's a tough world. It's a tough life.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are started out tough already. And so there's going to be things in their life that aren't good. And there's going to be hard times. And we really just pray and hope and try to build this relationship to where, just like me with my foster parents, after 27 years, knew they loved me and knew that they had an answer. I pray and hope that these youth, if they go off the wrong directions or if they get into some messes, that they'll remember that Sean and Whitney, their youth pastors, love them, and they've got this answer. They know this thing. There's this God that loves them, and that even if it's not today or tonight at youth group or 2 years, 10 years, it doesn't matter, but that they'll remember that they could come back. It's like we all have that. Like, we all go out and make messes, but it's beautiful to have this structure to come back to when we do say, hey, we made mistakes. We need to learn how to do this right. So,
yeah, I get a lot of those 3 a.m. phone calls. So,
I bet.
do do you have to call me at 3 o'clock? Well, I wanted to call and tell you I love you, Mom.
Yeah, it's like I can't wait till 7 in the morning. Okay.
Yeah, I can't wait till your alarm goes off. I'm going to
Yeah,
call you at 3 o'clock in the morning and tell you I love you.
yeah,
And, it's like, okay, I love you too. Can I go back to sleep
yeah,
now?
yeah. Is that it?
But
Yeah,
at least they know they can call.
yeah,
It doesn't matter what time they call. I just, my phone is always on and it's right there next to me and they
yeah.
know that I'm available. And,
That's
that's like
important.
your foster
Yeah,
parents,
yeah,
they allowed you to come back and, they gave you a spot and
yeah,
set you back on your feet again.
yeah, yeah.
Because by that point you've done drugs and you've been in jail, I
Oh yeah,
guess.
oh yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So even in my 20s, before I got saved, I mean, it went from the juvenile hall, the progression from foster to juvenile hall to jail.
Mhm.
At 18, no longer a ward of the state of California. It's like, woohoo, I can do whatever I want, and that led straight to jail. So, yeah, but then um, God's grace and salvation changed that. But what's wild is after being saved New Year's Eve night, radically saved, and just building a relationship with God and helping with youth and raising a family and doing all these things, I still walked away from all that.
Yeah. You
There,
told him you could do it on your own, didn't you?
I did. I did. I said, I'm good. I got it from here. And it's funny because I always try to figure that out. Like, how did that happen? How did that start? And there was this time I was driving bus for a church, helping out with the youth group, and they started a school of ministry. And I wanted to go to that. Like, I always wanted to be in ministry. So I'm like, I want to go to that. And I remember going in and talking to him, and the words that I remember were, yeah, just here's how much you need to put on your check.
Hmm.
That's and so I'm like leaving going, that's all that matters is this money for me to do this. And what's so wild is I walked out of that church with the enemy talking and a chip on my shoulder of how church is all about money.
Hmm.
Not one time did I ever ask God to provide that money.
Yeah.
Not one time did I ever ask, Lord, do you want me to do this? If so, make a way.
Hmm.
I went straight for the chip, the anger. The church is nothing but a money thing, and that seed was planted, and that led to where a few years later I was like, I'm good. I got it from here.
Hmm.
I did
Yeah.
not have it.
Well, at least you came back. That's the important
I'm
part,
telling you, there's a verse, and I don't remember exactly where it is, but it says that some will fall on the rock, and some the rock will fall on,
Hmm.
meaning Jesus. And um, I don't know. There's a brokenness in your life, and Jesus meets that, and you get saved. And but to walk away from that, the realization now that of God's love for you, and I'm not walking in that, I'm not accepting that, I'm doing the total opposite, is terrible. And I think there's this crushing that
Yeah.
it crushes you until you get to a point where you're like, okay, mercy, I'm sorry, I'm God, you
I'm
were right, I
I'm
was
sorry,
wrong.
God.
Yeah,
I'm back. Will you please
yeah,
take me in?
yeah.
Give
And
me
it's
another
almost
hug.
like being a kid. I remember being, well, I was probably there in my early 20s, where I realized, wow, everything that my foster parents Dennis and June did wasn't because they were being jerks or wanting to ruin my life. They were trying to teach me and to protect and to guard me because they loved me.
Hmm.
But it took me till these later years to go light bulbs on and like, oh, they were being parents. How many of us grew up like, oh, my parents must hate me, or they're trying to ruin my life because they won't let me go to this party. No, they're trying to protect you from the junk at the party.
Right.
But we think different as kids. I think it's the same with the Lord. We realize that He loves us.
Yeah.
He loves us, and
He's
that's why
he's
He
a good
does what
daddy.
He's a great dad. Yeah, He's a great dad.
Yeah, he's a great dad, and if we would just listen and
Yeah,
take that love that he offers
yeah,
and that protection, I'm always amazed at the people that think that God doesn't exist, and it's like God has always provided for me
mm-hmm.
and my children. They always made a way for me to support everybody and
Yeah,
get everything done, and there's times I thought I wasn't going to be able to stand the next day because I had crushing bills, and then
right.
all of a sudden here comes something.
Yeah,
Here's an odd check that somebody gave me, paid me back for something. And
yeah,
you know the Lord has always made a way in my life, and people think that's crazy, but I'm going, no, I can tell you stories.
exactly. Yeah, you got proof.
I've
Yeah,
got proof, and it was a very humbling experience to know that
mm-hmm.
he was going to provide for me, and I tried never to stray from that.
Yeah,
And this world makes that difficult. Okay.
yep, yep. That's true.
Yeah. They The world is not open to that, and people need to realize we have to get back to the Lord and back to what He teaches. We
Yep.
started that way in this country. We need to get back there.
I agree completely. Yep.
There's so much hate and discontent, and too many hyphens in this world.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like this whole deal of fatherlessness like is so huge.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got absent fathers. And so I read a report on it once, and it's not so much that the fathers aren't there physically, because they might be physically there, but they're just not there as fathers. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so then you've got all these kids growing up without fathers and then becoming fathers. And it's just a weird deal. But there's such a need, like you're saying, for the world to come back to the Father.
Mm-hmm.
And I think spiritually, absolutely, but I think physically too. There's a huge need for that.
Yeah, too many hate and discontent between parents.
I think that's the enemy's number one trick. If he
Yeah.
can destroy the family unit, he's on a roll. Yeah.
And because the Lord made everything. This entire world is with threes. You got Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Mhm.
You got wife, husband, children.
Yeah.
It's threes everywhere you
Mhm.
look. One of the pastors here, Billy Burris, did a wonderful presentation on threes and tied it with the Bible and family and so forth. And people seem to have just fallen away from that.
Mhm.
Divorces are too easy. No fault
Yeah.
divorces. You can go file it yourself, be divorced in 30 days.
Mhm. Yeah.
It used to be difficult. Let's go back to difficult on part of that stuff.
Yeah.
And get away from the violence in our lives too. There's too much violence in a home.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
So we've all got to look out for that. And let's see, we've got 4 minutes left. Oh, no, we got 3 minutes left.
Speaking of violence, I was teaching my boys how to sweep the leg the other
Uh-huh.
day. I just thought I'd tell you that because you brought up violence. But it's funny because they're boys, right? So
Uh-huh.
every boy wants to challenge a man to see what kind of man he is. It's part of being a boy. And so one of the boys kicked me, so I taught him sweep the leg. And my wife was like, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing?" I'm like, "It's okay. We're just boys playing." But there's a part in every boy that wants to push the limit to see what he's made of.
Yep.
And to see what kind of man he is. So.
Unfortunately, my house, I had a black belt, and I'd invite them to the front yard, and I would put them down, and I would hold them down with one finger. Okay, when you hold down a 6 foot something guy with one finger,
That's impressive. Yeah,
they didn't fight me anymore.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but it was one way to get their attention.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So anyway, X Media Group is a nonprofit, and we are always looking for donations so we can keep our programming on air. So if anybody out there has a heart to help keep our programming on the air, if there's something you like, please go to axmediagroup.com and press on that donate button. Take you right to Facebook, or not to Facebook, PayPal, and you can help support our programming here. If you want to come on and give your testimony on my show or something one time, you can reach me at Pastor LB, that's B as in boy, at xmediagroup.com. Just shoot me an email. We always love new guests. We love to talk with everybody and see how the Lord's affected their life, and we've covered lots of topics in here. Yep. Yeah, his wife's going to come and talk to me next week, so that'll be interesting. And we'll put her in the hot seat. You haven't done too awfully bad this morning. You're not sweating
thanks.
or
No.
any. We're pretty low key here.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, he was on with Joe, Cup of Sunrise this morning. But on Wednesdays we have live streaming from 8 o'clock in the morning till almost noon, and we'd love for you to join us each week. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, or Rumble. Rumble is probably the easiest one to get to, but it doesn't hop onto Rumble until tomorrow. But in the meantime, we thank you for joining us today, and we hope you come back next week and drop by website and just send us $1 or $2 if you could. Be greatly